right, so we're back with the Day of Manny podcast with the Lord Manny.
Right? Hello, Lord. Today with an STL switch.
Hey.
Look at this. If you guys see me a little bit puffy, it's because I do have another one underneath.
Hace frío.
Hace un frío aquí horrible. It looks like we're podcasting from Colorado.
Today we have Vanessa Cossio, a TikTok star.
I think the podcast is over.
A woman entrepreneur. Has her own TikTok channel, multiple businesses, and
like
a foster mom, amongst other things. Okay, so we're going to be talking to her a little bit today to get to know a little bit more about how she runs her life, complete chaos.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Complete chaos.
Yeah.
But that's why we call her Supermom, because of everything you just said there. Supermom.
Yeah, 100%. So
100%.
I guess like tell us a little about you and how I guess you got to where you are.
Oof.
Or where did it all start? Like, why is it that you wanted to go the route of helping kids and starting daycares, etc.?
Okay. So I wanted to be a teacher. I always knew that's what I wanted to do. So
That's a calling.
I went to school for that, actually at Ferguson.
Okay.
I started with
Shout out to Ferguson Falcons.
shout out to
No goes too high.
where Falcons fly.
There you go.
So I had my daughter at 19 as soon as I graduated from high school. So that really put a damper in my, plans.
Teen mom.
But
Teen dad.
but had it not been for her, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I put her, as I was in college for teaching, she was at a daycare, and I started volunteering at a daycare teaching ballet. And the owners were selling the school because they were splitting up, they were divorcing. So they came to me and they said, hey, I was teaching at the time, and they knew that that's what my long-term goal, that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So they came to me and said, would you be interested in buying the daycare? And I said, absolutely. I was broke as hell. I had no money.
That's when everybody says, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah, I had no money. I was a teen mom. I just barely graduated college and I had no idea. But I was like, sure, we'll figure it out.
But that's the power of saying yes to stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's very
I did
important.
not hesitate. I said yes first, and then I figured it out later. That's pretty much
the best
what I
thing
did.
Always.
So that's how it came about. I worked my ass off for the next 3 years to pay back everything that I needed in order to buy that business, but I did.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can all speak to that here, but I myself am a yes man, like you throw any crazy ideas and things like that. It's like, all right, let's do it. I have no idea how. I mean, this very same podcast started something similar to that with SBS Studios.
Yeah.
And then Manny was like, listen, we need to start getting podcasts going, and okay, let's do it. And never have we done a podcast in our life, probably to like a year ago. It's not that difficult, it's fun, but it does take work. As you saw, we were setting up for, an hour and a half. Our producer, Ben, is out.
We have our vice producer. Shout out to our Justin here.
But
JDB, shout out.
everything is figure-outable,
Everything.
we figured it out.
Yeah, so when you have your producer, tell you from one day to another you're leaving to Poland,
Yeah.
you got vice producer JDB coming in.
There you go. But he resolved.
He
Right.
resolved.
He resolved.
That's what makes you stronger.
It does, and you learn something new.
But listen, I think that to that point, when you said that we did the podcast, what was the thing behind us doing the podcast for these same things? Because we kept on always talking about our stories, and we kept on talking about everybody that we remember we started it with the STL meetings.
Yep.
STL, another shout out to STL. You start getting the merch already in STL. But anyway,
Pre-order now.
we started because we kept on chatting of how did you do this? How did you do this? And we said, those are worthwhile things to be talked about.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think that's, I've always said, I think it's very important to everybody hear their side of the story, because believe it or not, listen, there's a whole bunch of people that say, I don't want to listen to these, let me not say the word, but I don't listen, don't listen, skip us. You don't have to listen to me. I don't give a rat's ass if you want to listen to me or not.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm doing this for people that are probably in the same boat, in the fact of saying they're a teen mom. They probably think, oh, God, what am I going to do? Here we are. We're listening to your success story that we haven't heard it all completely, that I want to continue on that. But that is, to Moya's point, why we started this podcast.
Yeah.
We started for that same reason, for people that do want to listen, and probably some people say, man, how did you do it? To your point, before we even started, how many people always tell you, Vanessa, how can you juggle all the things you have? You have the daycares, You're a mom of 3.
Right.
You have other businesses. You have
2 dogs.
the dogs,
A husband.
the 3 dogs, a husband.
with
Well,
another
that's
child.
that's another big dog. No, that's a big dog. But anyway, at the end of the day, you have all these things, and you say, how do you juggle? And we're talking about the chaos, but it's to your point. What type of chaos is it?
It's controlled chaos.
It's controlled chaos, and you wouldn't have it any other way.
I wouldn't have it. I function better in chaos. I thrive in chaos.
Yeah, I'm the
think
same way. I
that's
tell
what
you,
it is.
it's organized
It's
chaos.
organized
It's organized
chaos.
You know.
Right.
And if I wake up and I don't see my schedule booked for the week, I think I'm doing something
You don't know
wrong.
what to do.
I'm like, what's going on?
Or at least 5 phone calls missed from you.
Yeah. Over the weekend, which I love. It's like, hey, listen, it's very true what someone told me once. I don't know who it was when I was much younger. You got to be worried when your phone ain't ringing.
Right.
And if your phone's not ringing, then you have a big problem because nobody needs you, you know? And when the phone does ring, you got to make sure you answer and respond to people. And Manny is always one of the people told me that. People have nowadays, and I get it, we all have ADD, you know?
We all have ADD.
And there's a lot of, like, I feel like one of the biggest problems is the communications. Like, so you can be communicated through WhatsApp, through DM, through email, through phone, through text. It just becomes overwhelming at times, you know? So you're kind of prioritizing,
You're preaching
right?
to the choir here with that.
So I can only, and so then you have 100 WhatsApp chats, you know, and then you start prioritizing on what's more important than the other, you know? But when he was telling me, he was back then, there was no mobile phones, there was no cell phones at that time.
You're saying the age that I have already, but it's true. I mean, we have beepers. We have beepers.
Okay.
Then the brick phone came out. But when you were in an office setting, when I was in the office setting, you know, when I was 22, you know, you would go out to lunch. You had lunch, and all of a sudden you get back, and the receptionist had your little, you know, that little circle thing with your name on it, and you had while you were away little messages. I would get back, and I had like 14, 15 little messages. And then you literally came back, sat down, and get the phone and, you know, return every phone call. Now you have everybody with the factor of like, you know, who calls an office? Right. Everybody calls you and texts them. You're not picking up. Hey, why aren't you picking up? I'm texting you. I'm calling you. It's like it more or less something that you have to be like this. It's just make it, you know, time even more proactive in the sense of people are just saying, no, pick up the phone. You know, what's going on?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things. When you get home, you want to disconnect.
Right.
But it's nearly impossible.
To disconnect.
You know?
It is.
And tell me a little bit about, you know, your day-to-day, you know. How do you start it? You know, how do you end it?
Well, I can tell you that it doesn't end.
Okay.
It doesn't end. But what's helped me through it, and I think what's continued pushing me to push myself more, to take on more, to do more, is I'm going to go a little bit against what you guys are saying here as far as like always answering that phone. I have learned that I basically have reached my goals of where I need to be in my life, right? What I need, I already got. You know, I have a roof over my head. My kids are healthy. They're in a good school. Have my bills paid. Like, I'm good. So anything outside of that for me is extra. You know, so if I get an opportunity for, let's just say, to open another school, which my third, that's exactly what happened. It kind of just fell on my lap.
Yeah.
If I feel like I can't handle it, then I'm just going to, I'm not going to do it. I felt like I could take it on. I feel like I'm doing great taking it on. If I ever feel like it's overwhelming me or like it's too much trouble, then I sell it. You know, that's kind of, to me, I've prioritized the fact that I am where I need to be. Anything outside of that is extra. And I feel like that's kept me very grounded and humbled in the sense of not always wanting to go after more and more and more and more. Because I feel like we sometimes lose ourselves in that, and you start going after all the things, and it's never enough. It becomes never enough. And I never wanted to get to really that point. So I feel like that's kind of what grounds me is I'm where I need to be. I'm happy where I like it.
I like
it.
I was going to push on that, what you were just saying right now. I think that's a lot of people that will be listening to this and think, okay, but you know why? You said, I'm good. The next is extra. I really like that. Mm. But at the same time, you're probably saying, maybe the other people are saying, well, but why not take more? Why not take another advantage if you have something else, another opportunity?
Absolutely.
So, but I like the fact that you've decided, I reached my goal.
Right.
So, I mean, do you think that taking more things will take away a little time from your other priorities, which are your kids?
So that's where I balance it, right? Okay. I feel like anything more that I take on, like I said, is just that extra for me. So I know that I can, like I said, I thrive in chaos. I'm still young. I can take on more now. if I ever get to the point that I feel like it's too overwhelming, if I'm missing my kids' basketball games, if I, if I'm not able to attend their school concerts or field trips, if I ever get to that point, then something's got to give, Something's got to give.
To that point, it's crazy. Like, I feel like we've all been lucky to a degree to always be able to attend these things.
Right.
Most parents do not have the opportunity to do stuff like that. To go to Spirit Week, to go pick them up from school early, et cetera, et cetera. Like, realistically speaking, even us growing up, I got picked up from school at 5. I don't even know what I guess we're working and stuff, And I got dropped off at school at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, and I had to just wait.
But I was just gonna say that if you really go back to at least my parents, you know what I'm saying? I mean, my parents couldn't really attend everything. I mean, my father was working. My mom was the one really doing everything back and forth, taking me here, taking me there. So to your point, I mean, it's totally changed. I mean, now you see, I see it also in my kids when, and I'm a much older father. But at the same time, I see it now when I go to my kids' schools. There's more, the fathers, where would you see that years ago? You only see the moms attend more stuff than the dads. Now you see even more dads than the moms.
And that's the thing, too, that as a mom, it's like you have to balance business and being a mom, right? So to me, and this isn't for everyone, and I'm not saying that it's the way to do it, but for me, my kids are my priority. So to me, it's kind of like, if I can't be there for my kids to actually raise them, to not be little assholes, what's the point of it all, I'm doing all of this, I'm building all of this for what? To leave it to who? To a bunch of kids that were raised by nannies and, are jerks and not kind, humble people, So what is it really for? What would I have done it for then? So
and talking about raising kids, obviously this day and age has changed dramatically with social media. Like a lot of parents don't even know how to handle the social media side to it. Like I had a daughter at a teenage age as well. She's now 18, about to go to college. Very proud of her. She got her scholarship. She turned out to be a very good kid.
She's a tremendous kid.
But social media worried me a lot, and when she got the phone, there was moments that it was a handful of years that
you still worry.
Yeah, that I was like, what is going on, And then you want to kind of have that buffer of letting them learn and fail and grow up and stuff, and I'm okay with that. But then you got to kind of it got to a point where I was like, trust but verify. Right. So I was trusting her for verifying, and when I went to go verify,
you almost had a heart attack.
I verified stuff that I thought was not happening,
Yeah. You probably said, why did I verify?
Why did I verify?
No,
it was remembering you as a teenager.
Listen, it was one of the most crucial points, I think, us growing up, or me in my relationship with my daughter in that case, because it was an awkward moment. There, as a daughter, she's turning into a teenager now, so as a father, you don't want to see them grow up. But then when you see what they're talking about and Snapchat and this and that, I was like, wait a minute, this is not happening. And then it was, the kid stuff, that you kind of did, but you don't want your kids to do,
But at the same time, going to that, I mean, I'm going through that right now, with those things, Snapchat and the whole thing, and you really have no access to it because
it's
it just, it disappears and erases. It's not like, but then you have maybe to what you did, give a little explanation, like, during pandemic, how you started recreating and what you
became like a cool mom.
But that has it's not as all it's cut out to be.
Right, but I'm saying,
she doesn't find you that cool.
She doesn't find you cool?
No.
Yeah, Victoria does not find me as cool.
She doesn't find me cool. She doesn't find me funny.
Oh my God! I don't know.
I think
my daughter finds me funny. Yeah. You better find me funny.
No, man, my kid doesn't find me funny. Sometimes she'll even laugh. She's like, "You're so cringy. That's not funny." I was like, "Well, you know what? Other people find me funny. So whatever."
And I bet you she goes to school and what do the boys say to her and stuff like that?
That's the part. I think that's what it is that her friends from school see my stuff and then they
that's your mom.
She hates this story. I have this one story that cracks me up every time. She hates when I say it, but I think the turning point for her was when she walked into history class once. And on the board, the teacher was having them write everything that they're thankful for. I think it was during Thanksgiving.
Oh, God.
And she says she walks in and the board's filled with the previous classes and everything they wrote. And right smack in the middle, somebody wrote, "I'm thankful for Allison's mom."
And she's like, what?
So when I went to pick her up, she's like, "Mom." I was like, "Oh, God." So that's, it's.
Well, that was one of the boys in the room that wrote that, obviously.
Of course it was.
Did they know who it was or no?
They love messing with her. She after found out who it was. And, but it's just things like that, it comes with the territory of having a young mom. I tell her that all the time.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to it. So my mom was 19 when she had me, and I mean, we went to high school together. How was it with my mom and all of you boys? You know, it was a constant back and forth. It was fun.
It was always fun. Yeah.
It was always fun.
But you know what? Looking back, high school years go by like
so
this.
Fast.
So fast. Look at Victoria, just 4 years in high school, and just boom, she's already telling me, "Oh my God, like I'm already going to college, and like you're gonna live a real life."
Scary.
It's scary. That's what it is. It's scary in this day and age. It's just that, and that's to go back to why I say, you know, I've been blessed enough to be present, right? Because we do have those parents that unfortunately they can't be there for everything. They can't just call off work and be like, hey, you know, my kid has a field trip today, I can't come in. And I've been blessed to be able to do those things. So why would to me, it's like everything else can wait.
So I have a good question for you, right? My sister moved out of town. A lot of my family, a lot of friends that I know moved out of town. And the number one thing is, I don't want to raise a family in Miami. Talk about how it is, or the pros and cons of raising a family in Miami.
And you know, I was one of those people once too that was like, I just want to get out of here. I want to raise my kids elsewhere. But I started traveling more, which was like a big deal for me. And you're gonna see the same problems everywhere. You know,
you probably said, "I'm better off staying in Miami."
I'm better off staying in Miami.
And I think here's more opportunities too. That's where I see it the most.
The biggest thing is the yes. So if you want, you know, kind of just your regular, you know, calm life, you know, the 9 to 5, and
there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not.
Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. I think that works for a lot of people. It's just not something that I think will work for me right now. Like I told you before, I thrive in chaos, and I'm married to a man who thrives in chaos.
Yeah, we know him
so
very well.
Yeah, so it's kind of a thing where it's like, for us, I think the hardest part is just when you're raising kids here is just who you surround them with.
Well, but I think that's
a good point, though.
Earlier too, that the sense is that, like, you know, you have so much opportunity now, especially what Miami has become.
Right.
I mean, Miami was, but Miami is, and it's going to be. I mean, you look at it everywhere. Everybody's just coming over here.
Everybody's coming.
I mean, you see the whole news of Sylvester Stallone now. Yep. You know, telling the girls, "Hey, we're packing up,
we're going
Florida."
Yep.
You know, like, what? No more LA. No more LA. So you have all these folks. This whole international world is in Miami. So there's so much of opportunity for anything that anybody's looking for in the industry of music, in the industry of acting, in the industry of whatever, of real estate. Miami's a place to be.
And that really happened post-COVID,
right.
You know, so for you know, several policies that were going on in other states, like big cities and stuff, you know, LA, New York, etc. People were just kind of tired of it.
Well, but we could say it. I mean, we're closed over there, open, you know, we're open.
We're open here.
You know, and so was Texas.
Yeah.
So
we're ready to work.
The people that were open, everybody kept on, you know, and everybody saying, I want to go over there.
Yeah.
And then you came over here, you took that little flavor, because the good thing with the Miami has, like I always say, it's Miami, USA, the Miami, Florida.
It's a melting pot.
Yeah. So when you're here, you have
a cesspool.
You have everything that you have that taste, and you see that people, to your point, there's so much business to be done.
Yeah.
There's so much business.
There's a lot of life here too.
There's a lot of life. There's just a lot of opportunity for even, you know, my own, until they decide what they want to do, right? My kids, if they want to go, you know, live off on a farm somewhere, go, you know, if this is, but I want to equip them to be able to survive too, because
we're Hispanic, they can stay with us.
Because my dad lives in North Florida and in the middle of nowhere. And I have a brother that's much younger than me. And I see him and myself, like I compare us to, and it's so different.
Yeah.
It's so different. If I were to bring him over here and drop him in the middle of Miami, he's
like,
not going to know what to do.
But you know what? You bring up something, me thinking when I was younger. There's something very different in, I think, all of our parenting personalities and the way we do stuff than I think, at least when I was raised and I did something bad, I got slapped up, hit with the belt, you know, put in the bed. Nowadays, I have never spanked my child, you know. Right. So, and I talk to a lot of other parents, and they don't. Like, do you think that has an effect on the way that they grow up or respect adults, or not really?
No, man. I just think it's different times. It's the way that you raise your kids. What I see a lot now, and I see it on an early education level. So I can just imagine as a teacher is, you know, you come to parents and you're like, you know, XYZ, Johnny's, you know, misbehaving, or Johnny's throwing something, or mi hijo no hace esa cosa. And you see that so much now. It's like, it's never the child's fault. And
so there's no accountability.
What's happening is you're raising a monster, you know, and then these are the kids that you see nowadays, that it's just like they have no respect for authority, no respect for their teachers. Middle school and high school. Middle school and high school teachers now, I have no idea how they do it. Hats off. That is, quite frankly, the hardest job to have, because these kids don't
100%. 100%. I mean, to be a teacher, let me tell you, I keep on saying it here. Hey, governor and everybody, you got to put all teachers' salaries at 6 figures, man, because I keep on saying, you know what it is that your kid, to your point, leaves your home and they're responsible all day until 3 o'clock or whatever time for your child. I mean, think about it. And then you say you come home, and sometimes, I know you guys are talking about, in my time,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if I did something wrong in my house, my mother would just say, what's the best word? Wait till your father
Wait till your dad gets home.
Wait till your dad
and
gets
that
home.
was like, you're freaking out and stuff.
That is what? You would be like this, and there was no sense of saying, oh, you come down here. My time in high school, you did something bad, it was a paddle, brother. You would go to the vice principal's office, and it was a racquetball paddle.
And it worked.
Right. That's it.
Look how successful you are.
Oh, I didn't get paddled, brother. I didn't get paddled. But all I'm saying is that, you know, you would get home and you would say, when your mother say, what's your father gets home? Y your father would sacaba cinto or whatever. Even though nowadays, sometimes when your kids like, te hablan de, you know, a little bit like, what?
You feel like,
You went, what? No. Listen, you want to say,
I just open up my eyes real big and start looking up like this, and that's it.
well, I always think like if that happens, I'm like, you have no idea how
What it was.
lucky you are. You have no idea. Like, and honestly, I enjoyed those because you feel like, I feel like that creates character and you become a coachable person. Like, you know, if you can get some type of like punishment like that, you respect the authority a lot more. You know, it doesn't matter where they come from. I always respected my elders.
I feel like it's just a thing of being taught too, like the little things like that. Like I said, even starting at an early childhood, when they're 3, 4 years old, if you see your mom telling the teacher, you know, no, my kid can't, because I have 4-year-olds. I have mouthy 4-year-olds that they'll say to me, my mom says that you can't do this, or my mom says that you can't.
That's tough.
So, you know, it's like at that age, that's what you're creating. You know what I mean? In my house, my kids know at the end of the day, the teacher's never wrong. To them, I tell them, you sit, you're quiet. I don't care how many points you need to make. You respect your teacher.
Even if you know that she's wrong.
Exactly. You shut your mouth and we'll deal with it later. You respect your teacher. And that's just not something that's really taught anymore.
And seeing so many kids, you know, you've probably taught in total. How many kids have run in total through your school? Oh my gosh. Thousands? Over how many? How long has it been?
Man, three
it's been since 2012.
2012. So, yeah, 11 years now.
11 years.
So, do you have a knack that you can see the way a mom is raising a child more or less and know this is probably going in the right direction, this is probably going in the wrong direction?
Behavior-wise, yeah.
What is like the biggest things that you notice? Number one, I guess accountability, what you were saying
right
earlier.
now, she just talked about the way they talk at 4 years old. My mom says you can't say that to me.
So you would say that's...
I think the accountability, you always kind of see those parents where it's just like, no matter what you tell them, it's never them wanting to help the child's behavior. It's always just like, oh, well, what's the teacher doing wrong? Oh, but why did they do that? That's my favorite. You know, your kid just hit somebody over the head with a block and they're like, oh, but what did the other kid do that made him do that? That's always my favorite. Once you give me that response, I already know where this is going, and I have to, like, you know, turn in a different direction with it, because I know that nothing that I say is going to matter.
But to be honest, I'd be a hypocrite right now if I wouldn't be that person.
You're that parent.
You know, because I'm saying, because there's two sides to that, and I agree with you 100%. But at that moment when you're like, you know, see your child, and your child's like, Dad, I didn't do it. You know, it was Eddie. Yeah. You know, if it was Eddie, I really believe it was really Eddie. But at the same time, you know, you have that doubt. Right. But to your point, you know, you gotta understand the teacher. You got X amount of kids. Right. They're looking at each, you know, one way or the other. That the other day, I'll tell you one quickly. I'm picking up my son. Teacher comes to the window, and I just see her coming to the window. Oh God, what did he do? And then she tells me, no. And today, twice, I turn around and he was misbehaving. And then, MJ, what's wrong? And he goes, you know, I told him, you know, she turned around at the same time that you were talking to the other person. Who was it? No, it was so-and-so that was poking on me. I go, well, but you know what? It was your luck that she turned around at that moment and she caught you. Yeah. So you're screwed. You know, but to your point, I mean, he's here trying to tell me, no, it really wasn't him. I go, well, but you're the one that got, busted.
They got busted.
You're the one that got busted.
Sometimes you're the
But
one
that
gets
also
busted.
builds character.
It does.
You have
Yeah.
to understand.
I
that,
got
you know?
busted on the way to
Many
Grand Night.
times.
Oh my
On the way to
gosh.
Grand Night, going to Magic
Have
Kingdom.
you heard that
The
story?
whole bus is mooning the principal's bus, and I'm the one at the end that gets busted. And they put me in Mickey jail.
He sat at Mickey jail for our entire Grand Night.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna get into that shit right now because
That was
I would
stupid.
ask Justin, but I wonder why he was the only one that got they found his moon. Only the people I know that can really assert to that. But anyway, but at the same time, it doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me one at all.
But all right, so now let's see the other side. I'm sure you see a lot of kids that this always breaks my heart. Even when I was picking up my tour, like the kid that the parents doesn't show up,
Yeah.
and they always go late, or they
Yes.
never go to the events. Like, do you notice when you see a kid that you feel like is maybe getting neglected? Do you pick up on certain
We do.
behaviors and you understand? Okay, this is
Absolutely.
going the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no, and I've said this a million times before. There's no one way of handling any behavioral learning, and no child is the same. None. I have 3 kids, and they are all completely different, and I handle them completely different. When I tell you different, like I have one kid who doesn't give a crap about grades, that if he gets anything lower than a C, I got to drill him and take away his iPad and punish him. I have another kid who, if he gets a C, he has a complete meltdown, breakdown, and I have to be the mom to be like, it's just a grade. It's not a big deal. Who cares? You have to be, so it's the same way with, these kids. They're all different. They all come
Balance.
from different, we have kids that are dropped off at 6:30 in the morning and aren't picked up till 6 p.m. at night, They're there.
But those
from-
are probably working,
and
those are working parents
So
to their
it's-
grind.
So we do, it's a balance of understanding, nature and nurture, right? So you need to understand where they come from,
Yep.
what they're getting at home. Are their parents going through a divorce? Are there, what's happening at home that they're coming to school with these behaviors? And then you have to handle it as such, So
Do you go into that, like, do you ask the parents, hey, what's happening at home? Do you ever get to that point, or?
we don't ask the parents, but I will tell you, I don't know why parents just are an open book with us. I mean, I've had parents
They'll come and tell their stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you want to go home.
And but I tell people all the time, like with the teachers, we are not only teachers to the students, but we end up being therapists to the
Psychologists to the
we end up
parents.
being psychologists to the parents. So many times I've had parents come in and sit in my office and just cry and tell me about all their problems and what they're going through, and I'll answer the phone and I'll have parents asking for information on the school and what's your aftercare policy, and what if on this day, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, I need you to know that it's just that I'm going through a divorce, and then they just, it's like the
there it
floodgates
goes. Yeah.
open. So
Especially you, they feel like you're going to identify with them in
so
certain
it's
ways.
so it just becomes one of those things where you just you have to wear all the hats, and that's where I go back to, you need to know when to shut it off, because if not, you don't have any time for you, and in this field it's majority women, right? And in early childhood, very rarely do you see men. So I don't just live by it myself. I tell my teachers, your kids come first, your families come first, work a second.
Yeah.
Because I can't expect them to come to work and essentially be, the guardians of other people's kids all day, but then neglect their own. So if their kids are sick and they call in, I have to figure it out. If they're, if they have a field trip to go to with their kids, they know I won't ever say no.
It's all your employees.
My employees. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the same way that I want to be present for my kids, I put that across the board to my employees, because it's not fair. You're sometimes they're raising these kids. They're with them more than they are their own kids.
By the way, there's a whole bunch
So-
of people now asking if there's a position available in Vanessa's companies. Are probably saying, is she hiring?
It's hard being a mom and
I
being
want
a
to work
woman
there.
and working full time is hard. It's tough.
Well, so I think that one of the biggest questions that I think the people out there will, what does it take then to get to where Vanessa is? What does it take to do what you've done? What is the best advice that you can give those females that are, how can I say, maybe contemplating the fact of, do I do that jump? Do I open my business? Do I go on my own? You have all these successful businesses. What is, your mentality of how to persuade them to do that jump?
just do it. Just do it and figure it out later. Right. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's going to fail as opposed to not doing it.
But you know what? That has a lot to do with people's personalities.
Yeah.
There's people who are extreme risk takers,
right.
and there's people who are conservative.
But we talked about that earlier too. Yeah. There's people that are okay with, like, you know, I work a 9 to 5, which is nothing wrong. Yeah. Right. You know, you work in a governmental job and you're perfect. Right. Your retirement, which is fine. Yeah. But then you have that other person that says, I just can't be that.
But you know what? To that point, people glorify being an entrepreneur.
Right.
Right. All the time. You see it everywhere, you know. But it is the most difficult thing that I think you can take on because you're always on 24/7. It's more responsibilities. You kind of thinking, I'm leaving 9 to 5. You're working 24/7 now. Right. You have to put everyone ahead of you. You got to talk about scaling, development. You have to be available. It's on. The list goes on. And I think in order for you to be able to do it, you have to thoroughly love it, have passion for it, and embrace it. And like you want to do it.
You have to love what you do.
Yeah, to be an entrepreneur, you also have to think about, okay, wait, how much do I need to live every month? Yeah. You know, so maybe this month is okay, but the next month is a little bit, you know, tight. You have to figure it out. When you're in 9 to 5, you say, okay, this is what I make.
And that's it.
This is it. You know, so
and you're really only worried about yourself when you're working 9 to 5. When you're an entrepreneur, you have other people's livelihood.
Absolutely. Everybody else's livelihood.
I mean? So
well, that and I think you kind of like, if you don't enjoy it, you won't get far.
You have to love what you do.
You won't get far.
Absolutely. I mean,
you have to love what you do.
It's always been known that you have to love what you do, and that I always say you will go very far when you love what you do.
When you love what you do.
Like, you don't feel like you work every day.
I do not feel like I work every day. I mean, I've tried. I've invested in other things, and I'm like, you know what? Let me try dabbling in other things that maybe aren't such a big responsibility. Maybe where I don't have to have, 20 employees, and I can get to a point where I can sell the schools and just do something. And I've tried it, and it's like dragging for me.
No.
Things that I'm usually like on the go 24/7. Now I'm like,
all right, so
like social media.
In 36 months, you grew a TikTok account called Cossio on social media. That's kind of like a mom, like a family account, to over 1 million followers. Okay, you've had several videos that went 28 million, that went completely viral. We've seen them everywhere.
Huge.
What would you say is your advice to getting like campaigns and big contracts with a lot of the companies that I've seen you do? Like, you've done stuff with Walmart, HelloFresh, etc.
Man, I've just been blessed to just be able to be myself. They find me and they reach out to me just because they like my content, and it's just authentic. I'm not commercially. It's the first thing that I tell them. When I have these brands reach out and they try to give me a script, I tell them no. I'm like, listen, I can't do a script. Absolutely. So either I can give you this and you're going to take it, or find somebody else. I can't sit there and be like, this is what we're setting today. And it doesn't come from me. I'm not that person. And social media was just something that blew up. I wasn't trying to make it, but now that I have it, I'm just trying to use it, to further the other things, my Airbnbs, my, things that I have going on. But it's tough, and it's tough. Influencers, my hat's off to them, people that do it full time, because it's a very intrusive, time consuming. It puts you in a very vulnerable place. It's just like people,
haters. I don't have to get to the haters.
People just expect that because you put out, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
They know you.
They not that they know you, but that they're entitled to everything that goes on in your life.
That's a good point.
Right?
That's a good point. We had Kiko here last week, and we put a couple of videos up of some, restaurant reviews and other stuff like that. And he reviewed, and people were saying you have zero taste. You have going crazy on him. And he would respond perfectly. He would be like, "Thank you, bud." He would be, "I'm glad that's how you captured in a 27 clip of my life."
Yeah. You have to have a backbone.
Yeah,
really, I tell people that all the time.
But again, this is why I always start the podcast that we don't care if you want to listen to us or you don't want to listen to us. If you want to listen to us, we are people here just relating the norm of a daily life of how we see it and how we act within this world. At the end of the day, whoever wants to take that advice, you take it with a grain of salt.
If you don't want to take it, keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Do whatever the hell you want.
But it's really hard for some of these people to keep it moving.
But that's what I'm saying. But when you have Kiko here, and the fact of listening and giving his 2 cents on what he tasted, why not? Right. Because I'm one of those people that I will listen. You tell me, man, I went to this restaurant. I didn't like it. I'm still gonna go because I want to try it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
All right. So the last thing before we go, you said something earlier, the Airbnbs. Would you be willing to give the people of Day Miami a weekend getaway at one of your Airbnbs?
Shit, way to put me on the spot. Yes, absolutely. I will.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So Vanessa,
we're not editing that part.
We're not editing that. She did say yes. We're gonna have a nice giveaway, a weekend getaway to one of Vanessa's Airbnb properties.
Very cool. That's awesome. I like that.
All right.
And guess what? You're gonna have some STL gear inside.
Yeah,
good.
and I have a big Airbnb idea coming up.
I like
You're
it.
gonna
Let's
like
do
it.
I know.
You're
You're always
gonna
full of big
You
ideas.
can share here.
And I gotta say
I'll
shout
share it.
out.
I'm gonna
Shout
share it.
out
It's
to
gonna be
Ryan, her husband. He's a great friend. He plays with us on the Day Miami basketball team. 3-time champ.
So for sure, he's
2
wearing
undefeated
that
seasons.
STL
He's wearing the
shorts.
STL.
3-time
And
champ.
I got a game with him tomorrow.
The
All right.
finals game.
We're starting the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Well, listen, I'm happy we did this. I think it's fabulous. I want everybody out there to follow this empowering, spectacular woman.
She is like Manny, but in a woman's body. That's what I told them the first thing that they met.
She has much better hair.
Yes, that I do.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank
You
you.
guys, thank you for having me.